At work, it can feel like stress is coming from deadlines, meetings, and expectations. But what if the pressure you feel isn't actually coming from the outside world? I'm Luke Richardson, and this is Wave Work Stress Goodbye, a podcast exploring the inside out understanding and how seeing how our minds work can transform the way we experience work, pressure, and performance. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. My guest today is Helen von Dadelszen. Helen is a communication and vocal coach who helps thoughtful professionals speak with greater clarity, confidence, and presence, particularly in high pressure situations such as presentations, meetings, interviews, and leadership conversations. Originally from New Zealand and now based in Switzerland, Helen brings together a unique background in vocal coaching, English language teaching, leadership development, and public speaking. She works with professionals from around the world, helping them communicate in a way that feels authentic, credible, and true to who they are. Helen, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much, Luke. I don't think I have anything to add. I think you've got it all in your
Ah,
intro.
well, there was a little bit of pressure saying that one. Excuse me, a little bit of pressure with that one. With saying that to a vocal coach, but I've got a question about you telling me what you think about my my vocals because now I could improve. So, but we'll leave that till later in the recording. So, for
Brilliant.
for people who welcome. Before we dive in, for those who haven't come across you before, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came across to get into communication and vocal coaching
Mm,
with people?
sure. Well, I have a background in recruitment. That's where I started my career. And then I came to Europe to see a bit of the world and ended up teaching some English and working in events for nonprofit. And that is really where I first realized that it almost physically pained me to see such smart people presenting their research, but in such a dull, unengaging way. And of course, they weren't taught that. They're experts, they're experting in their field, but not in communicating it. So you will have seen this as well, at these international conferences, and the person stands up on stage with their PowerPoint, turns around, and then go da, 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 and the audience goes to sleep. And that's not to say that the research isn't brilliant. It's just they don't really know how to translate that for an audience. And so that's what I started looking at when I was made redundant almost 10, no, 11 years ago now. And I was like, well, if I want to go on my own and do something different now is the time. And so I come from a family who's very theatrical. And I also joined Toastmasters about 11 years ago. And I realized that I was quite good at helping people improve how they were speaking. But the vocal coaching piece came a bit later when I realized that I could do and was in much better control of my voice than many other people. And so that's when I certified also in vocal coaching, which I think is a really interesting addition to general presentation and communications coaching. And it's a little bit unusual. And I really love talking about the voice, vocal production, and how we can really use this instrument to support our message.
I think your why, what you just described there, about how you see smart people and it pains you to see them struggling
Mm,
with a skill like presentations. That's the that's why I do Wave Work Stress Goodbye because it it pains me as well to see, smart people like you say, struggling with something when, they've got so much to offer.
yeah,
And going back to in education, it's not we do get when we were at school we do get thrown into presentations and you say, oh, team up with these people and present this to people, but you don't get taught how to do that, do you? You just get to say,
no,
right, you're doing a presentation, go off and do the presentation, prepare for the presentation, come
yeah,
back X date and time and do it. But
yeah,
no one gets taught how to, like you say, present their
yeah.
voice, um, pauses, frequency. Those little finer details that absolutely make the difference.
Yeah, that's the performance piece that I talk
Yeah.
about. And even before university, you've got kids, I've got kids. they have to recite a poem or present something, a project, but they're never given those tools of how do you actually do that, because we're all in our own heads and see the world in a certain way. And in fact, to be a good communicator, you need to step out of your own head and into the head of someone else, the shoes of someone else. And that's what makes a good communicator. But we're never taught that. And then even very young, we're expected to be able to do this naturally in
Yeah.
a brilliant way. And most education systems around the world don't give us the tools. And I think that's such a pity. And I'm just lucky and grateful to my parents for encouraging me to do speech and drama when I was very young, and then also learning to sing, because that opened a whole other world to me and skills that I've continued to develop into adulthood.
You're taking me back down memory lane now with all this
Mm.
because when I was at university, I went to Sheffield Hallam University in the UK, and I remember my final year, I did a module called Internet Entrepreneurship, something like that, back in the days where
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, social media was barely out, and it was just Twitter and basic Facebook. But I
Yeah.
did that, and we had to come as a group, we had to come up with um, a business idea for an internet website, something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I don't remember so much the preparation of it, but I do remember the actual presentation, and I was scared. I could feel
Mm-hmm.
the adrenaline of it and the nerves in me and
Mm-hmm.
the sweaty palms
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of listeners can will be able to relate to that because it doesn't just stop at university. It goes into, corporate professions of having to do presentations and
Yeah.
just because you're in a job and not in education anymore doesn't mean the scary thoughts and the nerves go away. And again, like we just said before, it's not something we're taught and we're just kind
Yeah.
of just expected to learn along the way in
Yeah.
life. And
And I mean, there's the skills that you learn in terms of how to present, how to communicate well. But what you're also talking about is how to manage your nervous system,
yeah.
right? So all these feelings, the heart racing, the dry mouth, the mind that goes blank, the hands that are shaking, all of this is your nervous system going to fight or flight, which is normal and human and fine. But we're not taught how to regulate and how to calm the system so that we can still do the thing we need to do. And a lot of people, what I find is that they find those reactions in their body so strong and they interpret them as signs to not do the thing. It feels
Yeah.
uncomfortable, don't do it, danger. You are going to die, which is basically what your body is trying to tell you. But it's not true.
Yeah.
And so this is where many people get stuck. They're like, oh no, these feelings are too strong for me. I'm not good at this, therefore I won't do it. And then, of course, as you say, they're forced to do it. We have to communicate. That's our way of interacting with the world, connecting with the world. And in the business world, you have to be able to present your ideas, give your opinions, ask the questions. And yet, if you're interpreting these signs as a negative, as a stop sign, and you've never been taught how actually to put a good presentation together, how to modulate your voice, what to do with your hands, that compounds things. And of course, in my world, I work with a lot of people who are speaking English as a second, third, or fourth language, which again adds another level of complication.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned about other languages because that's one of my questions actually for later, but we'll get onto that. But I loved how you described that fear that everyone can relate to of a presentation's about to come and that um, the scary thoughts and the dry mouth, like you say,
Mm-hmm.
and we are interpreting a, an innocent presentation as something like a bear chasing us. And like you
Exactly.
say, it's not true, but we see it that way, and when we're in that mindset and believing that illusion of life, we're not being the best version of ourselves that we can be, and we won't thrive at the presentation.
Absolutely. We're not able to be present. We're not able to connect with the other people. It's just yeah, if we're not able to calm ourselves, which is really something we should have learned very, very young, but we never did, then we simply stop and or dread the thing so much and make it into such a big deal and then push on anyway and sort of blank out during the experience or hate every second of it, which is such a pity.
So I just want to get on to communication under pressure to kick
Yeah.
things off, Helen. So what happens to people's communication skills? What happens to people's communication skills when pressure and overthinking takes over at work? Can you give me your perception on that, please?
Yeah. So typically, either, under pressure, stressed, you go into, as we said, fight or flight. And so what happens is you start to speak too quickly. You start to,
I'm one of
yep.
those people.
Well, most of us are. You start to speak too quickly. You find it difficult to filter your thoughts to something that's coherent for the person in front of you. You add unnecessary details. For example, I hear that a lot, and so the clear communicational message you want to get across gets muddied in this, and then it doesn't land, and then you walk away and you've wasted time, like the number of meetings and interactions that are wasted because people are not in the best frame of mind and regulated their body in a way that they can be productive. I mean, it must be costing the world millions every day, honestly.
When I was a project, it's interesting you mentioned meetings because when I was a project manager um, a few years ago, I'd have my stressful day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd get pulled to an unexpected meeting. And you're absolutely right. I can relate to that. I wasn't present because I wasn't in the right frame of mind for it. I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
done
Prepared.
anything to,
Mm-hmm.
regulate my nervous system, like you say, or
Mm-hmm.
had the awareness that what I was going through in my mind and what I was feeling through my body was just something that wasn't true. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the best version of myself in the meeting. I mean, the meeting was how we said what was said, and we probably came to some sort of good enough outcome. But imagine if I was educated in how to, relax myself, how much better those meetings could have been and how more productive I could have
Totally.
been for
And
me and my company.
I'm
Yeah.
really happy to say that I have seen in the last few years more and more organizations and companies who are a little bit more human focused, and many of them start their meetings with some deep breathing, with some getting
Wow.
present. No, I know
That's
I
good.
mean, 20 years ago, there's no way you would have seen this, but over the
No.
last 3 or 4 years, I've seen multiple companies do this. And whenever I do it in a training or even a facilitation, I always feel, oh no, people are going to hate this. They're going to kick me out of the room, or, there are going to be people who don't want to play the game. And yet, every single time, people find it so useful. And yeah, it's a bit awkward a little bit, but it's just a minute of breathing, and then they have proper constructive conversations.
I guess that's the benefit of the day and age we're in now as well, because 10 years ago, you'd be at work and you'd be stressed, and then you'd be thrown into a meeting and it's all face to face. And someone listening to this might feel a little bit self-conscious about doing breathing exercises before the meeting starts. You're outside the room doing it, and then people seeing seeing through the glass windows. What's this person doing? But the benefit of doing a call like we're doing now, if you're joining a Teams meeting, you could do those breathing techniques before you jumped on. The
But
people
I would
people
say,
wait for you.
even in person, you can do it.
Yeah.
I can easily sit around a boardroom and just quietly breathe. I don't need to do anything elaborate, it's just a quiet breath and conscious breath, feeling in my body. So you might feel the table. Your breathing should have a longer exhale than the inhale. There's nothing too complicated about it. It's just getting back in your body, firstly. And then I would say the next step would be thinking about who is in the room, so who the audience is, what they need, what they expect, and then try to just think of one thing that you're going to add value for them, and not what you're going to say, but what you're going to deliver to the people in the room.
And do you think what you've just described there is something that would be, say, in 10, 20 years' time in the world of corporate world working and well any industry for that matter, but where there's meetings and pressure, those kinds of things. Do you think in a period of time, say 10 years, that those sorts of pre-meeting exercises such as breathing and calming down are going to be more widespread than say they are 10 years ago or even today?
Well, I hope so, and I've got two hopes that I'm going to send out to the world today, Luke. The first is that we are start teaching our children this earlier on. I think this is something that they should learn along with reading and writing around the age of 7 or 8, and it's just normal. So that's what I would think. And I'm not asking for a huge curriculum. It's very simple to teach it. And I know some schools have started doing sort of things, but I think it should be more widespread. And the second hope that I have is that with the technological advances, with AI supposedly doing a lot of the work for us, that we can take a bit more of a break. And we don't need to, I personally believe we do not need to be working 40 plus hours a week. Like with all of the technology that we have now, surely we can work smarter, not harder, and bring back those hours so that we have simply more time for connection, for the life, for the family, for the external pursuits that you want to do that make you human and make you actually better at doing your job.
Oh, that's two things I completely agree with there. And a few weeks ago, I did a podcast episode about the advances of technology and how how it can have an impact on people's performance at work. I know it
Mm-hmm.
has on, I know it has on mine. They are
Mm-hmm.
really distracting devices. So I completely agree with you about, getting that into education from an early age and, getting, in the minute kids' communication skills are lacking because of
Mm-hmm.
these devices, and the more we can get them out of the picture and more of what you offer and anyone else who offers anything similar, more widespread, then that has to be good for anybody. And completely agree as well about the 40 hours a week thing too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very hopeful too that soon we're going to have a 4 day work
Yeah.
week at least,
Yeah.
and as you said, that will give a lot more time for because connection's something us humans crave, isn't it? And I just think,
Yes.
only positive with less devices and more time to connect. That's just, the only positive things can come from that for
Yeah. And we don't
society.
just we don't just crave it, we need it.
Yeah.
We're social beings, so we need that. So we need more space in our lives to live, not just work and be busy all the time. It just blows my mind that we've got into such a cycle of producing more and doing more, and it's very frustrating. So that's my wish for the next 10 years, the next decade.
And why do so many professionals wait to feel confident before speaking up? Because I know from doing this podcast that what we have going on in our mind is,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fabrication. So I know that you don't have to wait to be confident to do a presentation. You can have a load of jargon going on, and still, if you have the right understanding of what is going on in your brain, deliver a good presentation. I mean, there must be people. You probably train people who have eventually gone to do TED Talks, and I
Mm-hmm.
bet those sorts of people, you know, have felt confident 1 minute to deliver what they need to deliver on stage, and then the next minute it's going to be the worst presentation ever. And yet, despite thinking that, they've gone on to smash it out of the park anyway. Why do
Yeah.
people wait to feel a certain way before having the motivation to perform and do things well?
So first of all, what even is confidence, right? How can you wait for something to feel it? I mean, it's so abstract. It's a very difficult construct to define and grab onto. So for me, confidence is being able to trust yourself that you can deliver whatever it is you need to be delivering or do whatever it is you need to do. But how can you possibly know and trust yourself until you've given yourself evidence of the fact? And so this is why I describe the action competence confidence loop. So instead of waiting to feel confident, you have to actually act, do the thing, a little thing towards whatever you want to be so called confident in. And each time you do it, you learn and you build up your competence in whatever it is. So speaking in front of a group, for example, and you prove to yourself that you can do it. And so you can trust yourself in that situation. And you need to ensure that you are celebrating along the way and learning and doing reiterations and improving, of course. But if you start with the action to build the competence, then eventually, and sometimes by without you even knowing, you suddenly feel more confident about that. But then the loop keeps going, because I don't know anyone who's like confident in life, full stop, right? There's always challenges, different situations, different content. The way you feel on the day can change everything. So I think the idea of having this loop really helps. Confidence doesn't fall from the sky. You're not born with it or not. It starts by acting, taking those first small actions to build up your confidence, so you trust yourself, and then you build your confidence.
I think what hit me like a ton of bricks was your very first words. What is confidence? You're right, absolutely right, absolutely right with that. What is it? Because it really is just something we've made up in the outside world. Someone does something well or does something in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way to do something well. That's confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
they do the total opposite. That's a lack of confidence. It really is something we've innocently made up as, and innocently along the way, a lot of us have deemed that to be truth.
Yeah, and I
But
mean, we can define what looking confident is, right? We all know. If I ask any group, what does a confident person look like? We know it's shoulders straight, the chest open, hands open, smiley face, making eye contact, chin up, grounded, not swaying all over the place. We know this. We know how to look confident. We also know what confidence sounds like. And there are lots of flavors of the vocal confidence, but we know it's not speaking too quickly. It's not having too many filler words, like these words. It's being clear in our message. So all of this stuff are actually techniques or skills that we can build, right? So instead of waiting to feel confident, act to build up your skills to look naturally confident and to sound confident. And then you'll feel more confident. And the feedback you'll get is people go, oh, you look confident. And even if you don't feel it internally, you're sending out those signals, which are going to feed that loop of trust in yourself.
I love that little bit you mentioned before about doing a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
build confidence, and I can completely get that with doing this podcast. If you listen to my
Mm-hmm.
podcast nearly a year ago, if
Mm-hmm.
anyone's listening, and listen to the first 6 to 10 episodes, you will see the difference from those episodes to now. And you're absolutely right. It's doing a little bit here and there and just keeping
Yeah.
going. And before you know it, the confidence builds, and then things compound. And before you know it, I'm interviewing a vocals vocals coach. So yeah,
Cool.
absolutely right. It's doing a little bit. And I was scared when I did my first podcast episode. I
Of
was
course.
frightened, but now it's like a it's like I speak French. It's like a language to me now. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
you probably get the adrenaline each time,
yeah,
right? Will the tech work? Right? Will I find the questions? Will the person I'm interviewing
yeah.
have some good ideas to share? Of course, it's a kind of an exciting moment. So you're going to have this adrenaline. But yes, indeed, you like any skill, you have to work on it, and communication is exactly the same.
Yeah, you have to put the hours in.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about high pressure situations next. So, what small shift can help someone come back into the room and be more present and communicate more clearly in high pressure moments? I mean, you might have described it already, actually, what you've just kind of gone through, but is there anything else that we've not covered which might help
Yeah.
answer that question?
Yeah, I think other than being present, putting the focus on the audience, there's another technique that helps me a lot, and I found this help my clients as well, is to have a framework or multiple frameworks to grab onto to make us feel safe, right? And my favorite one, my go-to is PREP. So that just stands for point, reason, example, point. And so having a framework like that ready for you, make sure that you are more concise and succinct in your communication, and that you know where you are instead of going off on all the tangents, right, and trying to find your way. And for the audience is so much better as well, because you're packaging things in a nice, clear, beautiful package for them to receive. So have you, I don't know if you've ever heard of this prep.
No, but I was going to say, but I like it.
Yeah.
I think I'm a very big fan of prep, as you know, with I was having to organise this recording and discussing how it's going to work together, and we had that call
Uh-huh.
and doing these questions and in advance. I'm a big fan of the word
Preparation.
prep. I don't know if it means
Yeah.
the same thing as
Yeah.
what I preparation, but
Yeah.
abbreviation. But I do, as I said, I'd never heard of it in that sense before, but I do like it.
Yeah. It helps a lot. I mean, there's another one that's really easy. So it's hardly even called a framework, but it's like naming the number of points that you want to cover. So as you're answering in a high stakes moment and it's your turn to give your opinion, or you have to answer a question or whatever it is, you can think of your 2 points. You say, I have two thoughts about that. And you even put your fingers up to make sure that you and the audience remembers where you are. And then you can say the first one. And if in the end you forget the second one, doesn't matter. You can see, at least you've got one. And it just feels a little bit more packaged and prepared, which again makes people think that you're more confident than you are potentially. And the answer is more succinct and clear. And so if you've got your fingers up and you're holding onto your one finger, you're going to stick to that point. Oh, yeah, okay. So my point was X, if you get lost, and then you can go into your second point.
I
So
like that.
that helps
I
as
like
well.
how you're getting the hands and the fingers involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you say, if you forgot one, you got your hands to show that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like you say,
yeah,
as long as you have your hands out and remember one, it's all good.
yeah. But even if the end you say, oh, well, I've forgotten what the second one is, but and then you can repeat the first one again. It's fine.
I want to talk about the role of the voice.
Mm.
Everyone talks to each other all day. How much of communication is actually about the words we choose compared with our tone, voice, pace? Because we can all say what we want to say, right? But how important it is how we say it.
So the way that I like to see it is the words that we use are the core, are the present we're giving, right? So it's a nice package for the audience. And that's okay. But then if we can wrap it like a present, we'd wrap it with a nice bow. That is what I call performance. It's the body language and the voice. And for me, the voice is more important because, what can we say today? I'm going to use it, try to find a phrase that I haven't used recently. Um, it's really hot today.
It is. For anyone listening to this podcast in winter, it's in the 30 degrees mark in Europe. So yeah, it's
But when I say that it's really hot today, how does it make you feel when I say it that way?
I for
Does it sound like
me
I care? It's really hot today.
it kind of just feels like a statement. There's not much kind
Yeah.
of emotion. It's more straight to the point, if that makes sense. Whereas
Yeah.
if you say it like a little bit different, like, oh, it's really hot today, isn't it? It's kind of inviting a conversation back more.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So what you did there is you added a little bit of pitch,
Yeah.
which is the variety in the voice, so rather than being monotone like I did, and you made it a little bit quicker, which changes completely. It's really hot today.
Yes.
It's really hot today. It's
Yeah.
really hot today.
I
Really hot today. So you can play with the same words and it can give the other person a totally different feeling. And I think a lot of people don't think about how they use their voice, and they think, oh, why did that person get annoyed, or I was giving a compliment, why didn't they think I was why weren't they happy? Well, probably because you were being incongruent with the words you were saying and how you were saying it. I'm really proud of you, you did a great job today. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really proud of you today, you did a great job.
Yeah, you can see
Right.
the difference, can't you,
Yeah.
between and it's something I've never really thought about too much until we're having this conversation
But I
right
know, and
now.
that's why
Yeah.
I find this fascinating, because most people haven't. And what I'm doing is not magic. It's not even acting. All I'm doing is I'm putting a different emphasis. I'm actually thinking about a different emotion, and I embody that emotion in my voice. And so it's really hot today. I sound like I'm telling you a secret. right? So it's nothing magical that I'm doing. I'm just putting a different emotion. And I think this is a really fun experiment to do with people. And this is also why I think in preparation, it's really important to say the words out loud. Because if you don't, they might land in a way that you didn't expect. So if you've got a high stakes presentation, for example, or conversation or question you want to ask, practice saying it out loud, even recording it because we don't hear ourselves the same, and listen back and say, is that the intention? Is that the emotion I was trying to get through? Or what would happen if I speed up or slow down or emphasize a different word?
Oh, that's really interesting because when I do my solo podcast episodes, sometimes I do them if I've got a busy day, I'll do them at 5:30 in the morning, so I don't want to be disturbed from
Wow.
family, and yeah, or I do them last thing at night, say 10 o'clock. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I notice when I'm feeling not 100% that I probably do innocently talk a little bit like that, and it has come to my mind while I've been speaking, to thinking, oh, come on, Lou, show a bit more enthusiasm
Mm-hmm.
in your voice, and I've kind of thankfully noticed it and kind of changed my pitch a little bit. I'm not but I've kind of done that without fully realizing it, if that makes
Mm.
sense. I've been like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I've been slightly aware and changed direction a little bit. Whereas
Yeah.
from now on, when I do even after this conversation with you, I'll probably be more aware and think, well, I need to kind of get my tone right, the pauses right, because that can make the world of difference talking to people.
Absolutely. And, if you've got a script or even your talking points, sort of an outline, you can just put the emotion that you want. So maybe you want people to feel excited when you first open the podcast. So just write excited there. So, hi everyone, today, blah, 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 blah. And you're going to have a faster pitch and more energy in your voice. And then when you want to be a little bit more reflective, just write reflective or warm or caring or whatever the word is for you. And then you'll naturally slow down, have more air in your voice, have this sort of yoga voice, take a deep breath voice, right? And so it's not difficult to do. It's just having that intention. And if you can add that into your preparation that you
Yeah,
like doing,
yeah.
that can make a huge difference. And I would just say that if you are doing early morning things, I would really encourage you to quietly warm up your voice before you start speaking.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, if I know that myself, when I wake up in the morning, my voice is not at its best. And there's nothing, again, elaborate you need to do. Some breathing is great, some warming up your lips, some raspberries, if you can do that. And then a little bit of vocal variety going up and down. So sometimes I get people to combine that, something like that. In the shower, or it doesn't make that much noise, you won't wake up anyone. That's a great one. And the other tip that I have for you before doing something early morning is to take something to read, it doesn't matter what, and read it out loud, but exaggerate all of the pronunciation and really get your articulation going. Because then when you aren't thinking about it, when you aren't reading, when you're speaking on your podcast, you will naturally engage those muscles more.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I'm sure a lot more people are going to find it interesting as well that need to speak for their jobs. Because I have, as I say, done these recordings early in the morning, and I found myself getting a little bit of dry throat. Apologies, saying, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, it's hard. It's quite early in the morning this morning, and
Mm-hmm.
I do apologise to clear my throat." That kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be taking on board your suggestions now because if I do have a little bit of prep work, some
Mm-hmm.
vocal exercises,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll be less, less rusty
Yeah, I think so. And
when
you're
talking.
probably dehydrated in the morning as well.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're drinking plenty of water, that should also help the throat. Clearing your voice is actually very damaging for your vocal cords. So you should instead try to swallow or just take a
Oh, that's
glass of water.
interesting. Because
Yeah.
we all have an instinct, don't we, just to
Mm-hmm.
clear it. I
Mm-hmm.
was watching a Jordan Peterson podcast the other day, and I don't know why I noticed it. It's quite fitting I didn't notice it this week. We had this conversation with you, but
Mm.
I noticed he went like that and carried on talking. And I don't know why I noticed it because that's the kind of thing where you don't really notice and he carries on. You just
Uh-huh.
listen to what he's saying. But I noticed it that time that he cleared it. So interesting. So theoretically, he should have swallowed at that point rather than
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't help it, right? There's a gag reaction, you have to
yeah.
clear it. But if you can just swallow and chew a little bit the inside of your mouth to create a bit more saliva, that can also help. But yeah, it can be really damaging for people, and you can get into the habit of clearing your throat quite a lot.
I'm type, especially this time of year. It's really hot and sweaty, and
Mm.
you know you got it's dusty, or you
Hmm.
have a common cold in the winter times, that kind of
Hmm.
thing, and or flu and cold, and you just want to want to clear your throat. But yeah, I try best to become more conscious and swallow
Yeah.
rather than go all the time.
Well, unfortunately, once you start looking at these things, becoming aware of them, you can't turn it off.
Yeah,
So
one
you're
of the things
going to
once you
notice.
know it, you can't go back. I can imagine
Yeah,
it is actually.
exactly.
Um, we've covered communication and habits already, so I'll gloss over that one. So I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I was so glad that you mentioned international
Yes.
internationals, because I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give someone who gets self-conscious about their accent being and they think it might be detrimental to the job they're trying to do or wanting to do, because as the way I see it, if they're capable, right, and that shouldn't be something that kind of should deter them or make them feel that they're less than anybody else. What's your take on accents, and how do you overcome barriers, not just physically but psychologically as well?
Yeah. So, firstly, welcome to the club. With my living in Europe with my New Zealand accent, most people can't pick where I'm from. Often it's Australian, but even I get American and British, and I get everything. So we've all got an accent. That's what I would say first, right? We don't. Maybe some of us were taught to aspire to speaking with the received pronunciation, but most of us don't have such an accent. So one thing is it's normal to have an accent, and it tells a story of where you're from, right? I think is really interesting. A lot of people come to me as I'm in the French speaking part of Switzerland saying, "Oh, sorry, I've got a terrible, strong French accent." And firstly, we shouldn't apologize for things like that.
That's
They're
the point I
already
was
doing a
that's the
huge
point I was
job.
trying to make
Yeah.
on the asking the question. I didn't want someone to have to feel they have to apologize for anything
No,
like that.
it's part of who you are. And
Yeah.
it means that you are speaking another language, which is already pretty admirable. Especially many of us Anglophones, we only speak one language, right? Um, and what I try to, in terms of the mindset, how to change things, how you look at it, I always say, as long as the communication is not broken, there's no problem. So sometimes an accent takes some time for us to tune into and hear. And I make people aware of that. So when you start, even if you don't think you've got a strange accent, when you introduce yourself, when you start whatever you're talking about, give people a little bit more time by slowing down so that we can adjust our ear. And then the only other thing that I've seen in a very consistent way with strong accents is often it's because people are mumbling. It's not really the accent. Usually they're not moving their mouth enough. So they're speaking like this a little bit, which is really hard to understand in any accent, right? So getting them to move their mouth and lips around the words and slow down, that can make a huge difference. Does that help?
It does help, and I'm really delighted that we've talked about this, because I've got a lot of international listeners who listen to this podcast. I know it from looking at the listening stats, so I do know it's a question that will be quite popular with a lot of people. I used to work in a call center when I was 20, after I'd just done that presentation. So it's my first job when I was about
Mm,
22. And I loved talking to with with people who didn't speak English very well, because I was really patient with them, and and a lot of people weren't, but I was really patient with
mm.
them, and they liked me back because I was patient with them,
Yeah,
because and also, I didn't like speaking with British people, because British people just really annoy really just complaining all the time and stuff like that. Whereas, with um a foreign call, it was different, because it was a different type of call of having to understand one another to get through
yeah,
the phone call. And I preferred that much more than being shouted at on the phone.
yeah. Totally. And
Yeah.
I think that comes to also something that I always try to encourage people to be kind audience members, right? And for us Anglophones, in certain ways, we're very fortunate that we were born where we were born and brought up in a language. And I think we don't take on enough responsibility for the fact that other people are trying really hard to speak our native language. And so I would encourage native speakers, and I don't like that term, but first English mother tongue speakers to slow down and enunciate clearly, which is also our responsibility, right? Because it's not just listening for the other person, but it's also how we speak to them. And I love your story about the call center because you were connecting them on a human level, and they felt that, and they felt seen and heard.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of when I was living in Scotland and I was working for a cancer charity, and every time I saw the phone number of the Northern Ireland office, I would have to put my hands over my other ear and close my eyes and really concentrate on what they were saying, because it was so hard for me and so foreign for me, right? So it's not just for non-native English speakers that we have challenges with some of the accents. There are some
Absolutely.
movies and series, and sometimes I'm really tempted to put on closed captions so I can actually understand them, because it's we've gotten to a habit of just blah, 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 our words, and it's not very kind.
I do exactly that with American TV shows, American films. I put subtitles on now because I kind of miss what's
Mm-hmm.
said. And it's strange, isn't it? Because it's the same language, it's English,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the accent, I kind of, I need the subtitles to give reassurance
Yeah.
that I've understood what they've said correctly.
Yeah.
And Ireland, I can completely relate to that too. I used to, when I was a project manager, I used to cover Irish building sites over there, and I did it for about 5 years. When I first started, absolutely, I really struggled to
Mm-hmm.
take in the accent. But it's funny, isn't it? Because as the years went on,
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Yes.
I got all I kind of just understood, and I still today, because of that experience with the Irish accent, I completely. It's very rare I'm like I didn't understand that
Yeah.
anymore.
We
I
tune.
do it because
Yeah.
it's tuned in my brain now from
Tuning
when I
your
worked with
yeah.
Irish
You've
people every
tuned your
day.
ear. Exactly, you've tuned your ear. It's the
Yeah.
same as when I was in Scotland, and fresh off the boat from New Zealand, and I said, the pounds and pennies, and I'd say pennies, and they'd say, so what? Penny. And my friend was called Penny as well, and now I have to say penny. But for example, in New Zealand, we don't even differentiate the words hair and here. Now I do, because I taught English and I had students repeating back to me, and I was like, oh, that's actually wrong. But in New Zealand, we forget about the differences. We just say it all the same. So, it's a fascinating world but this is what I love about living in an international mixed cultural place, because it blows your mind how different we are, and you can learn so much about yourself and your own biases and your own upbringing and understanding of the world. Every day is a learning day.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely is. So, as I said to you before, I get a lot of international listeners. A lot of those people are managers, leaders, in roles where they've got to kind of, lead a team and lead by example.
Hmm.
What communication mistakes now do you see these types of leaders making without realizing it? So you might have had people in leadership positions before have come to you and they've like and they've come and said, for example, something like, I can't get the message across to my team to do something. Is it this? Is it that? And you've come to a solution and then it's kind of helped them. Could you give an example of that for us?
Yeah, I think there are usually a couple of different issues at play. I'm thinking now of a VP um, of what's it called? Development. He's an engineer in a med tech company, and what I realized with him was he assumed everyone else had the same level of understanding as him. He didn't realize that. But in his communication, I realized that he'd just make the point and he'd just assume everyone understood all the whys and the hows and the, and so we're working on him taking the audience where they are and thinking about where he wants to take them rather than just saying the thing. Right. And I get this a lot with my academics as well, who are so focused on their research, their small, very detailed, very intelligent area of the world. And they forget that the rest of us live on a different planet. And so I have to teach them to sort of be more audience centric, to understand, okay, what kind of background would they need? Does your audience come from? What level of detail do we actually need, depending on what the outcome of the conversation is? And using things like metaphors can be really, really helpful to shortcut the gap between the knowledge gap between us.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you said about how you're when you said your example person
Mm.
said something to the team and he assumed they got they got the
Mm-hmm.
message right because that's the point I'm making this podcast. We all live in our own world and
Mm-hmm.
reality. So the fact he said what he said and in his mind that he thought the rest of the his team or her team
Mm-hmm.
had got the message, whereas they hadn't, and it's kind of frustrating, but it's not the other people's fault if they didn't hear it and didn't resonate it. It doesn't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like talking to a child. I've learned that with my own kids, and you probably did with yours when they were a little bit younger. But you talk to them, and they hear you, but they don't hear you at the same time. When you, I think, what we just described, you say it in a different way or get on their level and then say it, and then the message kind of clicks. And it's the same with adults in a way as well. People have to hear it. I remember
Mm-hmm.
someone, I can't remember who it was now, but it's always stuck with me. Him and his wife were in the kitchen cleaning, and the man did the pots and cleaned the surfaces. And the partner was happy that he'd done that, but at the same time, she was annoyed because he missed a little bit, and she was annoyed that he missed a little bit, but he didn't see it. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing, if it
Yeah.
doesn't if he didn't see it, he can't kind of process it to do the action to not miss that spot. And that's the example I'm trying to think of. We have to kind of process things and think, pennies to
Yeah.
drop to do
We're
something.
all we're all wearing different lenses,
Yeah.
right? We all come at the problem or the situation with a different experience and understanding. And so we need to put on the other person's glasses and understand that. And, there's active listening questions that you can ask for understanding. And there's also what was really helpful for him was this prep framework. So he was just giving the point and expecting that to be enough. But I said, no, remember the rationale or the reason behind the point. And then if you can give an example, even better, because that really colors your point. So that structure for him made a huge difference.
Excellent, excellent. Um, how do you help? So how can I phrase this now? So I think sometimes people try to be. I think the workplace is a good example of it. Actually. I think the workplace is a great example of this actually, because I think people try to be something they're not to kind of get a message across, like we said, or get a task done. And that's why I do the podcast, because I don't think people necessarily have to do that. So, how do you help people become better communicators and lead teams without them feeling like they have to pretend to be someone else they're not?
Mm.
Does that make sense? Have I word phrase
Yes,
that well?
yes, yes. No, I get that you're talking about, yeah, pretending to be someone else, being performative and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
because I imagine there's a lot of people out there, like leaders who run teams and they do something and instantly regret it. And if that's
Mm-hmm.
not me, I'm not that person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I'm trying to get at. How do they thrive and do well without that moment happening to them?
So I start right back at the beginning, which, and you hinted at that, is to be intentional. So the first time I meet you as a leader, okay, now you're the podcast host, but if I was to meet you and you're my boss or you're my colleague and you wanted to have that first interaction, what would you want me to say about you following that first interaction? Oh, Luke, yes, he is so dot dot dot. What is that dot dot dot? So I get clients to define what is true to them their values, and how they want to be perceived in different situations or in different roles, right? Because we all have multiple roles. But imagine you as a leader. How do you want to be perceived? Typical things, but they can vary. Engaging, interesting, sharp, warm, empathetic, professional, right? So these kind of adjectives. And everyone, what I find fascinating is even though you can say, oh, maybe there are 20 of them, everyone is different. And when you hit on the thing that is true for them, that is really powerful. Once they're able to recognize a value that they have in a way that they want to be perceived and that is true to them, that is like gold. But that's not the end. Just having this word or three words is only the first step. But once we've got that, it's like our North Star. And then what I get them to think about is, okay, if this is true, if you want people to think you are sharp, what does that mean in terms of the way you communicate? Right? And communication is huge. So it's the words you use, it's the silences you give, it's the questions you ask, it's all of these things. It's how you use your voice. And it kind of comes back to what we were talking about with your script and putting emotions there, right? But if you're intentional and you want to be engaging, then engaging person, what do they sound like? What kind of messages? How are they formulating their information? They're giving stories, right? They're using lots of vocal variety. They're also giving space for other people. It's not just a one-way conversation. So it really helps us define how they want to create their own communication style. And then we see what the delta is between where they are and where they want to be. And we work on that step by step.
I can relate to it in my own podcast journey because,
Mm.
or the journey I'm trying to not just trying to be a podcaster, but a work stress coach as well. And
Mm.
when I've kind of been the real me and done
Mm-hmm.
like I am now with you,
Mm-hmm.
and been in that position rather than try and be something I'm not, I've done so much better
Yeah.
than just trying to be something different,
Yeah.
different. And I did a podcast episode a couple of months back about leadership and the best way to lead a team. And I put and the I can't remember the episode from start to finish now, but I think the main um point of the message was deep listening. How do you feel about
Mm-hmm.
listening? Because I guess without deep listening, you can't respond as a good communicator without deep listening.
Yeah. Deep listening is, I don't talk about it so much because I think it's just such a core and normal thing
Yeah,
to do. Um, and but it's not just being silent, right? I think a lot of people think that listening is you are receiving and that's it. But deep listening is paraphrasing back, what you're hearing, asking questions, um, and for me, really importantly, tuning in to the other person, right? So we get back to that emotion that we're feeling that's behind the words. It's a typical, especially in a heterosexual couple, where the woman says, "I'm fine," and
I've not heard
the
that
man,
one before.
oh, have you not? Yeah, right. And we all know that that's not really fine. Even the woman knows she's saying this is not really
Yeah,
fine, but it means I'm something's not right, but I'm not ready to speak about it,
yeah.
right? And that's okay. You don't need to prod further, but then it'll be good to come back to it later. So feeling the feelings behind the words and giving space, I think is really important. And it's hard for us because we're so in our own head, right? We're so egotistical. We've got our own concerns, our own stories, our own. And I see this sometimes with a lot of people, and they come in, they're like blah 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 blah, and sometimes it's not the right situation,
Yeah.
and this can really break down communication and relationships. So I think we could all be better listeners, deeper listeners. But I think that's a whole other podcast episode, honestly, on listening. And I have to listen back to your one.
Well, I think you're a metaphor and example about the married couple's a perfect one to
Mm,
to use because I've been there, like I say, all jokes aside, and you do get, oh, I'm fine, and if I didn't really listen beyond the words of that, the emotion of that, I'd go, oh, okay then, and
Yeah.
carried on my business.
Hmm.
But when I really hear the, oh, I'm fine, and I think, oh, are you? That's when communication's better. I listen more. I'm empathetic. I feel the meaning behind
Hmm.
what she said, and there's a better result from that. Whereas if I don't hear it, don't listen to it, and move on, that's a worse result.
Yeah. I heard once, I don't know if I'm going to butcher it, but in that situation, or often between, especially between sexes, I think we get this problem where, and you can ask, do you need a hug, help, or I can't remember the third one, but there are three, right? Can you remember what it is? We
No.
can also do this with kids, but I think it's so helpful,
Yeah.
because, and sometimes we don't know ourselves, right? We come into the situation, we don't know what we need,
Yeah.
but framing it, I think there are three H's: hug, help, and maybe to be heard. That's probably the
Ah,
last
so
one,
yeah,
right?
that makes sense. I was gonna
Yeah,
say heart actually, but I thought that doesn't
heart,
sound
like
right.
be heard. Yeah,
Heard sounds
be
like the
heard.
one,
Yeah,
the missing jigsaw piece. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because the typical thing that a man would do is want to help, but sometimes, especially women, we just want to be heard. We just want to get the information out, and then through that process, we will resolve it. But really useful for kids as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. So a question for you now. What's something you've learned about yourself through coaching other people to communicate?
That it is a lifelong journey.
Is that another podcast episode, is it?
Well, no, but learning, I mean, we say we only teach what we need to know ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And I have learned so much during this journey, in terms of my own flaws and what I need to work on. I mean, I'm constantly working on managing my nervous system. I still get very nervous before almost any event. Um, and tuning into what I'm telling myself, which is a really big part of the nervous system regulation. Um, and also that, what I'm doing now is more podcast interviews. I feel like I'm honing my skills, and I'm trying to, as we talked about before, trust myself more, that I will come out with something, an idea, an answer that is coherent, that makes some kind of sense, and hopefully sits well with someone else. So yeah, so much. I just, every day I'm learning something about myself.
Trusting yourself more. That's huge, that one, isn't it? Because
Mm-hmm.
we don't really do that, do we? We don't really have much faith in ourselves that it's all going to be fine. I guess we can go back to presentations with that. If we only just trusted ourselves to know we can deliver and deliver
Yeah,
well. But
yeah,
we always seem to have faith in the we're not going to deliver so well and what we're thinking. I mean, not just presentations, but in just the game of life itself, just trusting ourselves that we'll do well in any situation we come across, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if the situation outside of us is kind of difficult, we'll trust ourselves that we'll always have the right answer to grant through. And it must be true because I'm sat here now, I'm fine, and you're sat here now and you're fine. We always get to a point where
find a way.
everything's okay. Yeah, find a way. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's partly about the negativity bias that we have,
Mm.
right? So we're more likely to notice, oh, the answer that I stumbled over, or the example I couldn't think of, or the third H that got lost in the way. And so we're more likely to concentrate on those so-called bad things, or the failures, rather than the other 59 minutes that we've had this amazing flowing conversation with.
Well, that's
So
what I can relate to what you just said there is interviews. That's a perfect example. You go into the interview, it went really well in the moment, and you're washing the dishes in the evening thinking, I never said this, I never said
yeah.
that. Did I answer that
Uh-huh.
question properly? Blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
Before you know it, an interview that went quite well 6 hours ago has
Yep.
turned into a disaster.
Yes.
But it was fine in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, but this is why I try to get clients to reflect as soon as they can afterwards, and note all the good things, because we
Yeah.
need to shine a light more on those than the negative. There will always be negative, and we have a tendency to focus on that. So to take some time to think about what worked really well and why, is really key to keeping the negativity bias at bay.
Brilliant. And we've just got a couple of questions to close on now. So just for fun, you listened to me for the last 50 minutes or so. If
Mm.
I was one of your clients, what would you say I'm doing well and what's one thing I could improve on? Because I do have my flaws. I'm one of those people, as I said before, that speaks very quickly. I'm probably doing it right now. Um, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly on
Okay, okay. I didn't know you were going to do this for me, but okay. So I've been having this conversation. I haven't been tuning into that necessarily, but I guess what I would say is what you do really well is listen carefully and make sure that the interview flows in a nice way. It's not just rapid fire questions one way, right? To add in your anecdotes and your reflections, I believe makes a much better interview and podcast. These definitely the kinds that I prefer listening to and actually being interviewed in this way. So I would say that's great. You also bring a lot of interest into your voice, vocal variety. So you don't speak with monotone. You sound like you care, and that is matched also with the visual, the smiling, the nodding, and that sort of thing, which seems petty in a way, but it makes a whole difference if you're not one of these people who give the feedback
Mm,
to encourage the person on the other side. In terms of areas for improvement, I would definitely say slowing down.
yes, absolutely.
And I would say there are two things you can do there. One is to when you know you tend to speak too fast, concentrate on the vowels.
Okay,
So
interesting.
when you're concentrating on the vowels, you naturally lengthen or slow down the rhythm of your speech. Okay. Don't do it all the time, but when you notice that you're getting carried away. And the other thing is give yourself an extra micro pause in between your sentences so that you can formulate your ideas because your brain is going so quickly, but your mouth cannot keep up.
That's it,
And
yeah.
I see this all the time. And if you just gave yourself a micro pause to gather your ideas, you probably come out with a more coherent full sentence without any filler words.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm going to practice doing what you
Yeah,
said now,
do.
actually. That's interesting, isn't it? Because a pause like that I could have done now. I didn't mean to do it. It just happened because I didn't know what to say. But a pause like that seems forever in a person's mind, and my mind for that matter. Whereas it's probably not that long in reality, and it probably is necessary and makes the world a difference to a talk.
Do you know what? You eliminated all of your filler words in that two sentences just by being a little bit more conscious and slowing down. And I think with podcasts, most people have it on, I have mine on 1.3 times, right? So I speed it up a little bit. So if I find that someone is speaking too quickly, I find it difficult to listen to. And just giving that pause. I mean, the pause is fantastic because it allows you to take a breath. So you've got plenty of breath and you're not, coughing halfway through. Also helps with your nervous system to keep calm because if you're speaking really quickly all the time, then your heart rate goes up and then you get more nervous, more excited. And the other thing is it also gives your audience time to make all the connections in their own brain, right?
Interesting.
And that pause can be much longer than what you feel like it is, especially when you're the boss, like on the podcast, and no one's going to interrupt you.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think I'm that used to kind of being in environments outside the podcast um where I'm kind of conscious about what other people are thinking. And like you say, I'm in control. Like I can feel in control with slowness and pauses. Pauses and vowels, I can work on that
Cool. Love it.
over the next
Love
few
it.
podcast episodes.
Great. That's
Um,
exactly it. There's no magic. You just need one or two techniques to
yeah,
start working on and create a new habit.
it
New
doesn't
way of
sound
speaking.
that difficult on paper to work on, really.
The
And
difficult thing is it's a habit,
mm,
right? So you've got into a habit of speaking this way. And so what is the habit that you want? And just the more you do it, the more the repeated behavior
I
becomes a
mean,
habit.
it's something I can practice outside recordings, isn't it?
Of
Just
course.
talking to Charlotte, my wife, and the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what I usually say. A low stakes environment is the best place to practice. So around the kitchen table, hopefully it's not too stressful. And you can try, I've got clients who use more vocal variety around the table. The kids don't notice. Or reading a story at bedtime. That's a great place to practice. Everyone's relaxed. The kids are never going to complain that you're putting too much interest in your voice when you're reading a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Reading stories is another good one. Um, what are you most excited about for yourself for the rest of 2026? You got any projects? Anything you're working on right now? This is your moment to share what you've got planned between now and the end of 2026, and so people can be aware of what you're working on and what you can offer.
Sure. I don't have specific plans for 2026, but I am getting to the stage where I'm going to set a new date for my on stage event. So I tend to have them every 18 months, but I take at least 6 months to get over the last one. And I'm like, oh, never again. But I know it's a really valuable experience. I get people on stage. I help them manage their nervous system. I live coach them in front of everyone. Everyone in the audience learns. It's a big proper theatre. So it's a great experience. And last year, I also had some keynote speakers as well. So I provided the stage for them to work towards a bigger presentation. So I'm feeling like I'm getting the motivation to set a date for early 2027 to do that. And that is something that I need to plan in advance and work with speakers for at least 4 months in the run up. So it's something I'll probably be releasing in September, October. That's
Ah,
happening.
excellent, excellent.
But the other thing I'm loving at the moment is getting on podcasts to talk particularly about my book, Courageous Action.
I was going to do books right next to you. You read my mind. Is that another skill you have? That was the next question. Seriously, it was. So,
Oh, excellent.
over you
So,
go. Over to you.
so my book came out last year. It's called Courageous Action, and it's really all the techniques that I have developed over the years and have researched that will help you speak more confidently. Right? That elusive confidence. It's very practical. There's lots of opportunities to reflect and try. And it's called Courageous Action because, as we said at the beginning, you have to act. There's no point waiting to feel confident. And it's courageous because it won't feel very comfortable at the moment, right? You're stretching your comfort zone. And so, yeah, I'm loving talking about this and the material that I have there. And getting on podcasts and meeting incredible people like yourself, Luke, and
Oh,
having really
thank you.
interesting conversations.
And isn't your book title interesting as well? Because courageous action, isn't it funny how the more painful something is, whether that's physical, it's like going to the gym, isn't it? Where
Mm-hmm.
something's the more painful something is and uncomfortable, the more we grow as people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny enough, it's something we all try and avoid because the comfort's more
It's
nicer.
it's so strange, it's that the comfort zone where we feel comfortable and safe, and then there's the growth zone is outside of that, and so in fact we need to feel uncomfortable to grow, which
Yeah,
is a funny design if you think about it.
really,
Uh,
really is. Yeah.
it really is. But that's why I tell people don't interpret those nervous signals in your body, those body and mind reactions to something new as a sign to stop. In fact, that is a sign that you're ready, that you're growing, that you can do it, and that you will learn from the experience.
Perfect, perfect. Well, that concludes the recording. I'm going to put all your details in the podcast notes. But how else can people get hold of you? Can they email you? Are you on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, LinkedIn, those kinds of things? And if you are, I'll put the links in the podcast description of the episode so people can get to you that
Yep.
way as well.
Great. So I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, and luckily my name is complicated enough that you won't find many of us. It's just me, actually, Helen von Dadelszen on LinkedIn. And I do have Instagram, but I'm not I don't have a strategy around it. So I think I would disappoint people if they followed me there. But maybe that's another goal for 2026 or 2027. Otherwise, I've got a YouTube channel, and yeah, otherwise you can go to my website, presentpotential.ch, or my book website, courageousaction.ch. And you can also find the book on Amazon in paperback or ebook, Kindle, in French and English.
Wonderful stuff, wonderful stuff. And you mentioned your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
This recording will go on my YouTube channel. So what I can do is I can collab with you. So you'll be
Brilliant.
credited on the video just as much as me.
Oh, I'll look out
But
for
yeah,
that.
I've really enjoyed this. I've learned so much more than I thought I was going to learn, and I'm more than I could bargain, more than I bargained for, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are going to really take interest and take all the advice you're giving on board to help them wave work stress goodbye, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for having me, Luke. It was really a pleasure.
No, pleasure was all mine as well. Thank you, Helen. If this episode resonated with you, then feel free to connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn, where I share more insights on work stress, leadership pressure, and the inside out understanding. You can also contact me directly via email at onethoughtaway1988@gmail.com. And if you're navigating pressure in your own career, you can download my free work stress guide using the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care, and remember, work stress might feel real in the moment, but it isn't who you really are. Thank you.